All right, here we go. The Travis Neville Podcast, Episode 8. I'm not going to follow a chapter here on this one. I'm going to tell you a story. I'm going to share some information that I think is going to be valuable. So I went on so last week we talked about, actually it was 2 weeks ago, we talked about beating fear and how important that was. That, I was really clear that you can't stop being afraid. What you can do is address the fear. Once you feel that, then you let your mind come in. We talk about the separation between your heart and your mind. I mean, your heart, your emotions, your inner little kid, that's where your emotions come from. And then it's up to you to use your mind to deal with it, to control it, to beat its ass. That's what I'm a proponent of doing with fear. I mean, you can be afraid, but you've got to find a way to beat it. So to that end, I thought I'd share this experience I had. A friend asked me, it's February. It was February to go to Florida. I live in Michigan. You can see out the window there. There's snow everywhere. It's cold as shit out. And she's like, "Hey, you want to go to Florida?" I'm like, "That sounds pretty good. Let's go." So off we go, and the flight was from Michigan to Texas, and then from another flight from Texas to Florida. So here's how it went. Left pretty early in the morning, got to Texas, flew there, no problems. I mean, shit, we were sitting in the first row of like business class. So that's the first row behind first class. And the plane was decent size. I had room for my feet, things like that. I mean, I didn't feel uncomfortable at all. And we dick around in Dallas for a little while, and then it's time to go to Florida. And we go to get on this plane, and our seats are way in the back of the plane, and they are definitely like surf class, like they are for poor people. Then I get in there, man, I was like sitting in a child's booster seat. And I went and I sat down. I'm against the window, and the airplane's like curved up next to my head. Like, it was small, dude. It was small, and I lost my shit. I went to try to do my seatbelt, and I just was overwhelmed. I mean, I didn't even think about it. It wasn't conscious at all. It was like someone injected me with panic, with fear. Like I felt it physically go down my arms to my fingertips and down my legs to my feet, and my hair on my neck stood up, and I immediately started to sweat, and my heart rate went through the roof. And again, there was no presence of anything other than the seat was real fucking small. Like, it was small as shit, dude. And I lost my mind. I mean, I just said, I didn't even get my belt done. I didn't grab my bag. I didn't anything. It was immediate flight. I just said, I can't do this. And I bolted the fuck out of the airplane. And thankfully, it's during the time, the way that they're doing it on an airplane now is they seat you from back to front. Does that make sense? So they fill the plane from the back to the front, so that usually you fill first class first, and then everybody walks by them to get on the airplane. But, social distancing, they're trying to keep people from crossing paths, right? So we were like some of the first people on. And so there weren't too many people I had to pass, but I passed them. Like, I got off the plane. And there's this dude standing there, like, right in that little portable hallway thing, and he's like, looking at me. I'm like, "Don't worry, bro. I'm not getting back on that airplane. You go about your business." You know what I mean? Like I said, didn't grab my carry-on bag. I wouldn't have even had my phone if it hadn't been in my pocket. Like, I just got the fuck off that plane as fast as I could. And then the stewardess, I don't know, you call them flight attendants. She walks out and says, "Hey, listen, I rustled up a seat in first class for you. It's way bigger, a lot more space." I'm like, all right, I'll try it. So I came in and I sat down, and I'm still shaking. I'm fucking shaking. And I'm like, all right, I can do this. And I'm talking to the guy next to me. He's this hipster dude. You know, he was, I'm from LA, dude. I work in LA. That's what he kept saying. I'm like, I don't give a shit, man. Just tell me a story. Whisper sweet nothings. I don't give a shit. You just got to distract me, man. Because otherwise, I'm not going to make it. And so we're talking, and then I hear this clunk, and I look up, and that door was shut. Because I'm like the second row. I'm looking right at the door. And I jumped right up. I'm like, fuck this. I'm out of here. And I made him open the door and bring the hallway back out and the whole shit. Fucking, I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know what to call it. I just knew that if I didn't get off that plane, I was going to die. You know? It was crazy shit. I have never experienced anything like that before. Never. I didn't know what to do. So I get off the airplane and I go, I got to check out with this dude. And he tells me all these things. You know, he's got to change the books or what, you know, make it so that I'm not on the manifest or whatever he's got to do. And I'm standing in the airport after I do all that, just kind of trying to get my fucking bearings. And man, not an easy thing to do. Okay. I'll tell you that once you are past that threshold of Jesus fucking Christ, I'm going to die. Once you're past that, where that's what your body thinks is going to happen, your logic is severely impaired. Like, I couldn't decide where to sit down when I got back into, like, the area around, you know, at the gate. So I just stood there because I couldn't decide where to sit down. It was like someone had like put handcuffs on my brain and they were real tight. That's how it felt. And what I know, you know, I did some research on it because I'm like, what the fuck is going on? I need to figure this out. My body was functioning completely out of my frontal lobe, almost completely out of it. It was, you know, working on your baser animalistic side. So that's all I had was cold, hot, hunger, not hunger. It's like all I had. It was nuts, and that shit lasted all day. Anyway, I see this dude. I'm in Dallas. I see this dude in a Michigan State sweatshirt. And I'm like, go green. He's like, go white. And we start shooting the shit. You know? And it turns out he's a doctor. And he doesn't practice really anymore. He's a teaching doctor. So he teaches other doctors. And mostly it's the ones that are getting out of their residency. So they're about to kind of be cut loose to the world to actually be doctors, and they're done paying for their education. They're about to start to get paid. And he was telling me some of the things that he does with these people, and it was brilliant. Like, he was teaching them basic life things. These people have been in academia their whole lives. Anyway, very interesting conversation. That's not the point of this. So Dr. Rick from Grand Rapids, Michigan, thank you. Just that conversation. We talked about leadership, and we talked about life and a couple of basic things. How I was me having that conversation with him allowed me to tap back into, you know, my frontal lobe and go back to being, you know, back to Bill Bixby. You know what I mean? And thanks, Dr. Rick. And at the end of it, he said, because I kind of briefly told him what had happened to me, and he said, hey, dude, go get yourself some Benadryl, you know, and take a double dose. He goes, shit, take three doses. You're a big dude. And then get a magazine, get a book, something to keep your mind occupied. Take the Benadryl about an hour before you get on there. He's like, it's not Xanax, but it kind of does the same thing. It slows you down, and you'll be okay. You're going to be fine. And I didn't know what I was going to do. Actually, my best plan right then was I'm going to rent a fucking car and drive home. There's no way. Like, it was straight up B.A. Baracus. Like, it was, I ain't getting on no plane. God damn you, Murdoch. That was my plan. I'm like, I'm never getting on an airplane ever again. I'm going to take 2 days. I'm going to drive straight through. It's going to be like 18 hours. I had to drive to Grand Rapids and then with a rental, and then I'd have to drive my car home from Grand Rapids, which is about an hour and a half from where I live. Anyway, that's a panic attack. Okay? I've never had one before. I really have no idea what spurred it on. I can give you I can guess. But really what it comes down to is the small ass space. not being able to get out. And I'm telling you, that had nothing to do with my mind. I mean, as far as my conscious mind, like my intelligent thinking mind, that was straight up something out of my core, out of my genetics. That was like, you're not getting in. You're not staying here. You are not staying here. So again, that was the plan, was to, rent a car and drive home from Dallas. Not exactly the best fucking plan. But you know what I did? I did exactly what I told you I do when I'm in a bad situation. I reached out to some of my friends, and one of the guys I coached with, his name's Chad. He's a great dude. He called me. I'm standing at the airport, and I'm talking to him on the phone, and he said, listen, dude, same thing happened to me for the first time when I was in my 40s. He said it was nothing I'd ever experienced, and I don't mean to out you, Chad, but I'm trying to thank you. He said, listen, man, and actually he plugged the Benadryl too. He said that'll work. He told me, don't do shit today. You're not going anywhere. He's like, go find yourself a hotel for the night. Get yourself a good night's sleep. Get up and do things that make you comfortable in the morning. Which to me, the first thing I did was work out. Came back to my hotel room, got clean. Got to the airport as quickly as as early as I could. So I was there for a few hours, just relaxing and taking in the environment and getting used to it. Got some good food in me. I mean, these are all the things that Chad said to do. He said, make a plan, follow your plan. I talked to my buddy Andy as well, and he went through the same ideas with me. So between the two of them, I had a good plan. So here's what I'm trying to get to. I'm gonna tell you I beat fear's ass, okay? Because the next day, less than 24 hours after having a full-blown fucking panic attack, which again I'd never experienced that before. I don't know what I didn't know what to do. I got back on the goddamn airplane, and I flew home. And there was a connector too, so I got on 2 more airplanes, and I made it home. So I'm telling you that because I do a lot of pontificating essentially on this podcast, telling you about all these things that I probably sound like the cockiest motherfucker ever. That I can do everything right, and I do this right. And I do that. Yeah, I'll tell you when I screw up. I'll tell you about the arrest and getting divorced and all these dumb things that I've done. But the fear thing, I don't really tell you much about that. And here it is, man. It hit me right in the face. And what I realized, it's exactly like I said, where fear is an emotion and it comes to you, nothing to do with your thinking. It's completely separate from your thinking. It's up to your thinking to decide what to do about it. How are you going to manage it? How are you going to move forward with it? You know what I'm saying? And I feel like I did that right. I called some people who had my back, and they talked to me. I got a plan together. I did exactly what I told you. Just having a plan is a stress reliever, and it was. Knowing what I was going to do the next day made it okay, and I made it through the flights. I was the last one on the airplane and the first one the fuck off of it, both times, and I made it. Now, I want to share that with you because the key here is that I was really physically afraid, like full-on panic. Didn't know how to manage that. I'd never been through that before. And I don't know if that's a thing where it will go away. I don't know if that's a curve where you hit this panic and then it'll drop off and you can control it and get yourself wound back down. I don't know if that's possible or not. Maybe it is, but I hope I never experience it again. I'm sure I'll never. If I have to fly somewhere again, it's going to have to be a pretty damn good excuse. And I'm flying first class, and I'm bringing my fucking Xanax. I'm telling you that I'm going to take a lot of it. Like, I'm going to be out of it. Like, I'm going to straight up be B.A. Baracus. I ain't getting on no plane. That's what I'm going to do. That's my plan. If I ever have to do it again, that's what I'm going to do. So here's the ironic part. I'll get to the irony, I guess, in a minute. What I'm left dealing with now is looking at that with a little perspective. I mean, that was some time ago. That was a few days ago, and I have to admit to myself that there's this massive chink in my armor. I've got this massive weakness. Like, if somebody really wanted to fuck with me, they'd lock me in a tight, if it was the movies and they threw me in the trunk and tried to, I'd lose my mind. I don't know what the fuck I'd do. I'd probably kick the seats out. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'd kick that fucking trunk open. There's no way you're keeping me in there. Like, I would get out. I don't know. But I'm trying to wrap my mind around that, okay? That I know now that I have this massive weakness. And when I say weakness, that doesn't mean I'm weak as a person. What it means is there's a thing that is like a kryptonite for me. Okay, there's a weak point. I can be strong in lots of other areas, but this is a thing that I can't manage. And I don't like that. I don't like looking at that. It's uncomfortable. I don't like admitting it. I don't. I read in the first flight, okay, from Grand Rapids to Dallas, and perhaps this is why I didn't have a problem. Granted, the seats were a lot bigger on that flight, but I read this essay. It's called On Forgiveness. It's by a guy named Russell Hasan. Interesting dude. He calls himself an objectivist and a libertarian. And I guess I was doing some research on that, and objectivism is this concept kind of brought about by an author named Ayn Rand. Psychological stuff, philosophical stuff for sure, and it aligns well with the Libertarian Party. And this guy, he's a lawyer, he's an objectivist and a libertarian, and he happens to be a gay dude. That's completely across, really has nothing to do with it, but interesting ass essay. What he talked about was that there is an economy of sorts within you and your emotions, or at least he compares it to he calls it an economy. It's not even a comparison. Within you and within other, across with other people, right? So let me give you an example. So I'm on this fucking aircraft, and I ask this flight attendant to break the fucking rules and let me off the goddamn thing. So I now owe her. Okay, so in this economy, I am in debt to her. So I may feel, driven to be very, very nice to her, or seek her out, figure out who she was, and thank her. Make sure her bosses know that she helped me out when I needed it, or something of that nature, where I'm now in debt to her and I feel like I need to repay her in some way. And it can happen in the opposite way, where if you feel like, she might feel like, I really put her out of her way, you know what I mean? Where she really went out of her way and did this thing for me, and now she feels like I owe her something. Now, I don't think she felt like that. She's probably seen what happened to me 1,000 times. I was doing some research on it. It's all over the internet. This same shit has happened to people over and over and over again. Like, it's pretty common. I would tell you this. It goes back to what I told you about how our bodies have not evolved enough to deal with the technology around us. There is nothing in our DNA saying you should be getting into a tin tube and going 700 miles an hour at 30,000 feet. There's nothing about that your DNA is going, okay, yeah, normal, no big deal. Everything about you is screaming, get the fuck out of here. So I think it's an uncomfortable situation from the beginning. But back to the economy thing. This is what his supposition was, Russell Hasan. And this is an impressive guy. I'm going to reach out to him and see if I can get a conversation going with this guy, because he's sharp as shit. I mean, the things he talks about, I was like, right on, bro. He just says it really well, and I agreed with a lot of it. So you get that the economy piece, right? Where there's debts, there's debits, and there's credits within relationships, right? Like, I am of the mind, and again, I'm taking what's in his book and applying it to myself. I'm going to tell you that I'm in this state where I try to give to as many people as I can. Shit, you read the book. It's all about, helping people and volunteering. And, the end result, of course, is to make myself feel better, to make myself happy. So I guess in a roundabout way, it's selfish as shit. I'm not going to say that I'm some kind of, Gandhi or Mother Teresa or something. I'm not like that. But those guys, good for you folks who can do things like that. But I do. I try to give a lot. Ultimately, though, if it didn't make me feel good, I wouldn't do it. You know what I mean? Maybe that comes down to the selfish part of it. But I try to give to everybody. Like today, a lot of snow. I talk about this all the time. I went snowblowed some driveways, right? My job is to get people jobs. I try to hook people up. I call them, try to connect people who need employees with the right employee. And again, I make money on that too. So again, it's not like this amazing thing I do, but I try to stay where I'm ahead on everybody. Like, I don't ever want to feel like anybody owes me. You know what I mean? Like, I don't ever think that way. Like, my neighbors that I do their driveways, I'm just happy to do it. I don't think anybody owes me at all. I don't want to feel that way. But another way I don't want to feel is that I'm in debt to anyone else. You know what I mean? You probably have experienced that yourself, I hope, if you're a reasonable person. And so that's how I try to operate. But back to what I started at the beginning of the economy thing. You have an economy within your own mind, with yourself. Okay? And it operates just how I told you, but you do it with yourself. Okay? So, like, I might have a list of things to do today, right? I get up first thing in the morning. I do some book stuff. I'm getting a podcast going. Maybe I'm marketing somewhere else. I'm doing book stuff for the first hour of the day, and then I go to the gym. I get that done, and I come back, and I'm working on my job. I'm working on my business, and then I'm probably going to go to football practice. I got these things that I do every day like you do, all right? And it's easy to get to the point where you think, well, if I don't get everything on my list done, then I'm in the hole, right? I'm in the hole to myself. Like, I'm in debt to myself. Isn't that fucked up? I mean, it is. It's fucked up. It makes me think, what the hell are we doing? I don't know. I'm pretty productive. I do a lot of things during the day. And the economy thing, the book, the essay that he wrote is called On Forgiveness. And that's ultimately the end result. He exposes this economy as a way to get you to this point where you can forgive yourself, where you can. And I said this in the book too, when I was talking about working on the house. I was talking about forgiveness at the same time in the process of it. And that's why this was specifically interesting to me. You've got to get to that point where you can be okay with your mistakes. Okay? Now, when I was young, I didn't have anything to stand on. Okay? I didn't have accomplishments to stand on. I didn't have laurels to rest on. You know what I mean? But now, I've done some stuff, and I own my home, and it's remodeled, and stuff's okay. If I can go a day, I can go a few days, I can go some weeks, and not do shit, and I'm still doing all right. I'm still successful. And we'll talk about success in a different podcast, and I'm excited about that one. It's going to be good. But that's what his essay essentially comes back around to. It closes with this idea that if you don't get a thing done, or if you pissed somebody off, whether you meant to or not, if you're laying there in bed at night and there are some things that you wish had gone differently during that day and they were in your control, you've got to learn to let that shit go. Okay? And why does that apply to what I'm telling you about the airplane thing? Because like I told you, I prop myself up as this successful guy, who has some knowledge and, how to keep your mind right, keep your emotions right, and be happy and be successful. And I find out that, shit, man, I can't handle small spaces. Like, it's this giant chink in my armor. You know what it did to me? What it did to me is this. I was standing in that airport, and this is before I talked to the doctor, Dr. Rick, thanks again. And I was watching people walk by. And I'll tell you what, you want to see a slice of life, go to the Dallas-Fort Worth airport and watch people walking around. You're going to see people of all backgrounds, all colors, male, female, whatever. Everyone is there, traveling, evidently, out of Dallas or through Dallas. I don't know. But what I couldn't stop myself from thinking when I saw people, and there's a lot of good-ass people watching in an airport. And I'm a judgmental motherfucker. I am. And that is definitely a reflection of me judging myself, okay? That's why I judge people outside, because that's what I'm thinking about myself. I'm hard on myself. I am. And I'd watch these people after that incident happened, and everybody that I would normally have judged, I was going, well, you know what? you never know what's going on in his life right now. You know? You never know. Maybe they just went through something like I did. Maybe they're going through something that's far worse. Maybe they are. And so that took a lot of the stank off of my usual judgmental shit for the people who are standing in the middle of the walkway looking at their phone in everybody's way, not paying attention. Or the fucker taking too long here. Or, you know, the dude who just taking his sweet time pulling his shit out of the overhead compartment. We're all waiting on you, bro. You know what I mean? Or, and here's a big one. Now, this is not a retraction, but I go back to episode 4 where I talk about all the people who do, engage in jackassery at the gym. And yeah, as uncomfortable as that shit is, you never know. You never know what's going on in somebody's life. That shit humbled me. Okay? Going through that level of panic. It made me really think differently about how I drive, for example. Shit, I'm going to the gym today. It's basically the only place I go most days. These roads are snow covered and usual shit for February in Michigan. And people are driving slower than shit, taking too long to do everything, driving in 2 lanes at the same time because they don't know where the fuck they're supposed to be. And I'm like, maybe this driving in the winter puts them through some shit like I just went through on an airplane. I mean, in either case, there's not really any danger, but you can't control it. It comes on its own, and it can be debilitating, So that humbled me. But again, back to the essay on forgiveness. You got to forgive yourself for that shit. And that doesn't mean that you are giving yourself a pass. It doesn't mean that you're going to say it's okay to do that shit over and over again. When I say this in the book, you're not, saying that whatever happened was okay. But you're saying, it probably wasn't okay. But you know what? I learned from it. And I'm not going to keep beating myself up about it. That's different than just kind of getting away with something. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I'm a judgy motherfucker, and I know it. And I'm going to try to take the best I can out of this incident about me being scared out of my fucking mind. And what I'm taking out of it is a few things. Number 1, Travis, take it easy on people. Quit being so fucking hard on everybody, But even bigger than that, that comes from inside of me. You know what I mean? That comes from my own internal judginess and my being hard on myself. And so when I'm laying in bed at night, I've got to look at my personal economy and engage in what Russell Hasan calls emotional bankruptcy. Okay? And you know what bankruptcy is in a traditional financial economy? That's when all your debts are forgiven. Okay? Well, you have the ability to forgive your debts to yourself. Only you do. No one else can do that shit. Just you. Okay? So learn what you can from it, whatever it is that you think you did wrong. You crossed somebody, or you weren't as good at X as you thought you were going to be, or whatever it is that you're laying there in bed going, fuck, man. Wish I'd done that differently. Once you feel like you've learned what you can learn, cut it the fuck loose. Okay? Emotional bankruptcy. Practice it with yourself. And let me tell you, you start doing that shit with yourself, you'll do it with other people too. You won't even have to think about it. It'll just happen. Okay? Sometimes things in your life, they happen and you don't know why. Okay? And I'm going to tell you, this fucking airplane thing came out of nowhere. Man, I wasn't drinking. It wasn't anything weird at all. It just was this tiny little seat, and I lost my mind. You know what I mean? And that's the thing. It's an emotion. I can't control it. It happened. All I can do is deal with it when it comes up, and now I have a good plan. If I ever do have to fly again, like I told you, first class seats, Xanax, definitely something good. I will download a movie or an audiobook onto my phone that doesn't require the internet. Because shit, I hooked up to the damn airplane internet. Cost like $8. Couldn't get anything. I was trying to find YouTube videos and stuff. Nothing would work. Waste $8. Heads up on that one. But Anyway, that's where we come out on that one. Yeah, had a scary situation. I beat its ass. And from that, I learned some things about myself, about how I deal with other people, about how I deal with myself. And that's it. If you get a chance, again, it's on Amazon. It's called On Forgiveness. And the author's name is Russell Hasan, Hasan. Brilliant shit. This guy's pretty sharp. And it's only, I'm going to tell you, an hour and a half read, 2 hours maybe. It's not even as long as my book. It's pretty short. It's an essay. Check it out. He's got some other good points in there, some social and political things that I thought were brilliant. Really objective guy, really sharp, well-spoken. But that's it. Those are my thoughts on learning from different things, on beating fear and then learning from it. My name is Travis Neville. This is the Travis Neville Podcast. I wrote this book right here called The Jossman Method. You can get it on Amazon. You can get it on Audible. You can get an ebook. You can get it at a lot of different books in Michigan, specifically Southeast Michigan. I will not be flying anytime soon, but I hope that my experience here helped you somehow. Check out Russell Hasan. He's a sharp guy. Like I said, I'll try to reach out to him. I'd love to even get him as a guest. Once I start learning how to interview people and having guests, I will do that. See if I can bring him around and talk about politics and things like that with him. Thanks so much for your time. I hope I helped you. Have a great Monday.